everybody. This is Trent with SoundlinkTV at the Radio Room with Confessions of a Traitor. I'm here with Steve. How you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. Thank you so much for having us and chatting to me today.
Yeah, of course. So, I understand this is what, your third time in the state so far?
Yes, it is. Yeah. This is the third time we've been here, and it's our first headline run. So it's a bit exciting for us, a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, we've had an amazing time so far. This is our third show, and the 2 nights previously have been incredible. But yeah, to have come over for a third time is an absolute blessing. So I feel really, really lucky to be in this position.
Yeah, so, you're still building your name up over here, and it takes a lot. I know you guys just put out your new album, and it takes a lot to do a headlining run in a country you've never headlined before. So how's that been, headlining a tour like this?
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, we've got 2 incredible supports in No Treaty and Meadows, and like I said, we didn't know what to expect. It's a gamble is not the right word. Like, we kind of did everything we could to make it as successful as possible. But what we wanted to do is capitalize on the 2 previous tours. So Convictions were kind enough to bring us out twice, and we did a West Coast run with them, and then we did an East Coast run with them. And then we were like, well, we've got to strike while the iron's hot, and we'll put out a record and then we'll follow it up with a tour. And then we wanted to get some real good supports on. So I've always been a huge fan of Meadows, and they're on the same label as us. So I wanted to bring them out with us. And then No Treaty as well have been doing incredibly well. And then as we go down into Texas, we're picking up Bloodlines, and then it becomes a co-headliner in another band called Lightworker as well. So yeah, I mean, we wanted to create a bit of a community around Christian metal, and I feel like we're starting to do that. Not just us, but other bands as well. And the turnouts have been incredible, and the message between the bands has just been phenomenal. So yeah, it's been really, really cool.
Yeah, starting to see a resurgence in that. It was obviously big in the late 2000s with the Devil Wears Prada, August Burns Red, Under Oath when they were starting, Emery. That was like, those are like the big bands, and then it kind of like lulled away for a bit, and now you're starting to see like more viral clips, popping up. I know Bloodlines has gone viral, No Treaty and stuff, and then you guys with this new record and stuff, and so. I guess coming from the UK into America, obviously it's more here that, it's, especially in the southern states, it's more like, Christian and all that. And so being in a country with that, I guess it comes across on the new record some, but what is it navigating those waters in Europe, I guess, as a Christian band?
So in the UK, it doesn't exist. There's no scene. There's us and maybe 2 other bands in the UK. There's another band that we're very close with called Meet Your Maker, and they've just put out an album recently, so if you haven't listened to it, you should. They're a very, very good band. But there are like pockets of like Christian scenes within different countries within Europe, but fundamentally it just doesn't exist in the UK. So we've been it's quite a bold foot stepping forward, coming out and kind of releasing the music that we're doing in the UK. But we have got a really good footing there, and what we're trying to do is just trying to expand as much as we can with the message that we want to share. So we're getting out to Europe a bit more. We've been on some really cool support tours. We've done some cool headliners. But it's just different. It's very, very different. Like for us to come out to the States, the financial impact on us is utterly tremendous. Whereas like domestically, it's a lot easier to, you can just pack it in a car and drive to a show. So when we come over, we have to do big runs, but then at the same time, it's very, very beneficial for us to be out here for a long time. So yeah, it's, the experience of touring over here is like nothing we've ever experienced before. So we just love it. And the more we can come back, the more we will. We've got visas and everything like that secure our position here, even though it is getting a little bit harder to secure them. And we seem to be able to keep getting them, and people want us to come over, so we want to come over. But yeah, it's the UK is a very small place, and it's kind of difficult to tour the UK just generally because there's a few major cities. And I was explaining to some of the guys on the tour package that we did a drive on the first tour with Convictions from San Antonio to Phoenix, Arizona, something like 960 odd miles. And I explained to them, I said, so the longest route you can do in the UK is a place called John O'Groats to Land's End, and that's 830 miles. We did more than our country's length from one show to the next. So it just, from a scale perspective, you know, you go from one city to the next city to the next state. There's so far to go. So, you know, the hunger for people to come and see shows is a lot greater here than it is in the UK. So yeah, it's just different, which is also good.
Touching on that a little bit, not necessarily, I guess, you know, what we call here testimony or anything like that, but you were talking about how there's no Christian scene there and stuff, and so, but that's something you guys are passionate about. How did you guys, I guess, come to the conclusion that? How'd you find that, and what was it that made you guys want to become that? You know, like a Christian band, or even maybe Christians of a sort, if that makes sense. Like, since it's so like not, I know because Catholicism is big in Europe, but like
it is,
but like, I guess basic Christianity, you know.
So I mean, it's interesting you put that. Like, I grew up Catholic, so I'm Irish by descent. Grew up Roman Catholic, and my parents are Catholic. I've got very, very strong roots within the Catholic Church. We wrote a song recently, which we released with Convictions, called "Hail Mary."
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
So we'll kind of like dip into it a little bit, but that essentially is about what experiences my parents had around growing up within Catholicism. So they went to school in a nunnery and a monastery, and they were physically, emotionally, and sexually abused by the priests and nuns and monks and everything like that. So it tells that story, and it's a kind of a cascade effect. It's, when it was initially released, everyone was like, "Oh, you hate the Catholic Church." I was like, "No, I don't. I actually hold the Catholic Church in very high reverence. I'm simply telling a survivor's story." So, with that in mind, like, Christianity is strong in the UK, but there isn't this kind of like scene of like music within the UK. Just generally, I didn't know what CCM was until we came over here, and I was like, "What?" Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you know, bands at CCM." I was like, what does CCM mean? So I'd never had any kind of exposure to it whatsoever. And again, like, we just used to sing like the Jesus bangers when we were at school. Yeah, you know, "This Little Light of Mine." Like, you know, I was part of a school choir growing up, and I would go around singing the songs and, you know, just spreading the word and everything like that. So I've been completely immersed in it since I was very, very young, and then I started discovering more American music and like heavier stuff. And obviously it's like linked to Satanism, and like your parents don't want you listening to a cliche old thing. And then I found August Burns Red. Okay. And I was like, "Oh, well, these guys are amazing." And then I found out they were Christian, and I was like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And then I went down a rabbit hole. And then it was Devil Wears Prada, Memphis May Fire. And that was kind of, but because I wasn't here, I didn't get to go to shows or anything like that. So I truly missed out on some of the greats, like For Today. I've only just got into Gideon, probably in the maybe in the last kind of like 6-7 years. But some of the kind of grassroots bands, and then I discovered War of Ages really early on, and they became like one of my favorite bands. So As I Lay Dying were another one. Yeah. So like the influence of Christian metal I knew about before I knew about CCM. So it was all, you know, head over feet and backwards and everything like that, my discovery of it. And when I started writing music before I joined a band, it was always laced with, you know, the Word of God. It always had like inklings of it. And I think when you listen to bands like August Burns Red, it's not out and out worship music. And that's kind of reflected in how I write my music. So it tends to be lyrics through the eyes of a Christian. So these are real life things that are happening to me, and this is how I deal with them as somebody who is a Christian. Because that's what I grew up with, and that's been my influence. Now, as I'm starting to tip into discovering more bands, I didn't know that personally, like, that worship music could exist, and this is, you know, in metal. So it's interesting. Like, it's just like I said, Jesus bangers. That's what we used to sing. I was like, how do you go about, you know, turning This Little Light of Mine into a metal song? Like, so without it being like a kind of a cliche cover. So yeah, it's a journey of discovery for me, and now that we've kind of established ourselves as a Christian band, we're now kind of going, oh well, we're finding people, and I'm finding, like, Meadows are a prime example. I love that band, and I was like, the moment we could play a show together, I was like, let's get them out, let's take them out with us. So I just want to hang out with people that I love as musicians and their message as well. So yeah, hopefully that's kind of answered your question. There's no kind of like direct route of like, oh, I went to a hardcore show, I heard Tommy Green preach, because I didn't. I never did. Like I never got exposed to that, and I didn't know about it because I went to Catholic church, and that was it. And it was very, very kind of militant with it.
You kind of touched up on it in that last answer about where you write and stuff, and like where you came from and all that. So with this new record, there's songs about loss on there, songs about grieving, I guess positive anger, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I guess, what does this record encompass all of? Like, with what do you, I guess, because most records, they last 2 years before you record another one. So what are you trying to establish? What are you trying to say, at least for the next 2 years?
So for me, these are all true stories. This is things that we as a band have gone through and struggled with. So things like, Hail Mary is a direct representation of what happened to my parents and myself in church and stuff like that when we were growing up. Starve, Noble Bloom, and Love You Left Behind are all about the passing of our guitarist Jack. His mother, last year, she got diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. So we documented that process together, and we wrote the songs that way. Still Haunted is about a friend whose partner died by suicide, and what I want to do is I wanted to capture these like horrendously traumatic things to tell people that this happens, and we need to talk about it, and we need to express our feelings about it, and also give it through the eyes of somebody who's a follower of Christ. So for me, it's detailing like bad things happen, and we will never know the reasons why, but if we let it conquer us, like, we will never grow and become a better person. But if we grow from it and enrich our souls and become stronger through the process of pain, we can overcome it and share the message of surviving that grief. And that's what I want to do with this record, is tell people that things are going to get hard, and God will test you, and He will. And if you can stay vigilant and within His shadow and follow His path, then you can absolutely become a stronger person from it. And that's what I want to show from this record.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I didn't know. Obviously, everything's real, but I didn't know they were all like stories. So that makes it 10 times more intense when you hear it. Yeah. So you mentioned that you got like Bloodlines and some other bands hopping on, like Lightworker.
Yes.
Shout out Joe. Joe's a homie.
I haven't met him yet.
Yeah. I haven't met him in person either. I was disappointed he wasn't on this run.
Yeah,
but
he's a lovely guy.
Yeah. So you guys have that going on. So I guess the back half of 2025. I can't believe we're talking about the end of 2025 already. But so more state stuff. You guys going back home?
So when we finish up this run, which will be kind of like beginning of July, we would have done 22 dates across 28 days, which is the biggest tour we've done in the US and just generally. So we're here for the month. We've got a bunch of stuff back in Europe that we're doing. We've done a single show this year in the UK, and that was our album release show, which was incredible. And this is the first time that we've had a cohort of Christians come to our show. Oh, wow. And I was stunned, because it's never really happened before, but it was the first time that I genuinely felt like the Lord's presence with us in the room, like a bunch of Christians who discovered us, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Now, if we can start to build this kind of scene in the UK, I don't think it would ever get to the size it is here, but I'd like to start that process. And then we've got some more UK shows later on, and we've got this visa for a year, so we're looking to come back again. We want to be coming back at least once a year. And we've got plans in 2026 to already come back, but we're trying to figure out how we can make it logistically viable because it costs so much. But at the same time, it's so important to us, so we will make it work. Yeah.
Thanks for your time today. Enjoyed talking to you, Steve.
Thank you very much, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Confessions of a Traitor, Trent with SoundlinkTV. Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much.